Hello everyone, it's Becky here. So this is my current art journal and I've been working on it for 3 weeks now. Just taking a little bit of time every day, about 20 minutes or to 30 minutes every day, and sketch something. And just fill up one spread after another. I just finished this one today. So today in this video, I will show you the real-time process of how I sketched these two views from my reading room window, and each took me just 10 minutes. I had to be fast because the colors in the evening sky were fading away pretty fast. Okay, so the following part of this video is gonna be real time, so you can get a sense of how much time that I really spent on sketching on a single day. And I think you can also see much better in this real-time speed of how I sketch. So I'm drawing a small square frame first, so I can control myself of how big I can draw. Sometimes if I don't draw a frame and I draw really big, I was too ambitious because today it's getting dark very soon, so I don't have a lot of time to do a big sketch. So here it is. I'm gonna sketch on this palm-sized space. So I'm starting from the very left of the frame. So I want to include this cone-shaped evergreen tree there because it's tall, it's big, it's really nice contrast with the rooftops and other things below. So when sketching a landscape, it's good to have something really giant around the edge. And now I'm just connecting the rooftops and all of those abstract geometric shapes of the house and the light pole in the middle. And then this tree in the foreground is covering a lot of part of the street view. So now I'm using an almost blind contour way to draw the tree by seeing the outline of the tree with my eyes and moving my pen really fast on the paper. So I'm not trying to be really precise here. Just trying to capture the general feel of the tree and the negative spaces in between, the gaps, the holes in between the leaves, and add a couple of branches. Okay, and now I will keep drawing the house on the other side of the street. Again, I'm not trying to be really precise here, just keep it really loose. The lines don't have to look perfectly straight because we're artists. We don't have to draw perfect straight lines like architects. I think lines that are not perfectly straight has more life in it. Adding some textures for the trees with really loose and squiggly lines, and then drawing the outline of this tree in the foreground. Just keep it loose. I find that if we speed up a little bit more drawing, the lines are much more looser and has more life and energy in them. So just go and really trust our sense and get moving a little bit faster instead of slowing down and trying to be accurate. Okay, so now I want to add more squiggly texture marks for this tree on the foreground. Especially the things on the foreground, it needs more details and textures. And now just drawing the mountain line behind in the distance. Okay, I think I am done the drawing part of this sketch. Okay, so now I'm ready to paint with my watercolors. As always, when I paint a landscape, I like to paint the sky first because it's much more light and translucent compared to the other solid objects. And first color wet on wet is medium yellow. That's the color of the evening cloud floating there. Just let the yellow color spread out by itself instead of over blending. Now I'm adding on some little streaks of cerulean blue mixed with a little bit turquoise. I'm using thin brush strokes because that's how the cloud looks. It's looking really feathery and light. And just let the color bloom by itself instead of trying to blend, make it look perfect. Now adding ultramarine blue for the mountain in the distance. Add a few more tiny streaks of clouds. Sometimes I have to slow down a little bit and think, what should I paint next? Now I'm mixing a light green for the first layers of everything that belongs to the plant. The trees, bushes, the grass. It's a mix of radiant green and a bit of yellow. I'm gonna add darker layers of green later. Okay, and here comes the second layer of green, wet on wet. It's radiant green mixed with a bit of burnt sienna or brown. And just let the two layers of greens blend loosely there. I'm just pressing the colors on with my brush without over blending. I think leaving the brush marks there, it really adds some impressions or energy to the sketch. And the tree on the foreground looks darker. So it's radiant green mixed in with a bit more burnt sienna. And pause a little bit just to think, what should I paint next? There's no need to rush. Even though I sketch really fast, I don't tend to rush. Sometimes I pause for some second to think about which part should I paint next. Adding some dark brown for the rooftops. And adding a light wash of yellow there for the house. Add a bit of shade using the leftover ultramarine blue and purple mix. darker shade. And now I'm just mixing an even darker shade of green for the tree on the foreground. So I mixed a bit of ultramarine blue into the green and a bit of burnt sienna or brown. Just pressing the colors on without over blending. Just pressing with like brush stroke dots. Okay, so the first sketch is done. It took me about 9 minutes and a half. So now, before it gets dark, I'm gonna quickly sketch the other view from the middle window. Again, I'm drawing a square frame. It's gonna be across the 2 pages. I really like doing a cross-page sketch because it really blends the 2 pages together nicely. Okay, so before I start, I like to envision the placement of everything on the blank space first. Let's see. So I'm sketching the forest outline first in the distance, because in this way I know how much space of the sky I'm gonna have. I want to have a quite big area of the sky because it has streaks of colors on it. Instead of drawing the rooftops below, the sky is much more interesting. After drawing the outline of the forest, I'm just adding the rooftops outline below, very loosely. They're just shapes of triangles and trapezoids. Trying to see those rooftops as very simple geometric shapes, like triangles and trapezoids. And I always like just coloring in the windows with solid black, just to add more density to the houses. Just adding some more squiggly textures for the forest. And those negative spaces. There's another tree there. And now I decided to use very gentle vertical hatching lines just to give a density to those forests, because they're quite dark. And now this sketch has more contrast of the forest with the rooftops. Light and dark contrast there. Now just drawing the contour of the tree in the foreground. Just a couple branches of leaves. Okay, so I see the colors in the sky are fading fast, so I'm not gonna add way too much more details. I'm gonna start painting now. Again, by wetting the area first with clear water. And then grabbing some red, magenta. Blending in some yellow. A bit of blue there. Cerulean blue. So just lay the color on and let them blend together by themselves. This sketchbook I'm using is really good. It has a lot of cotton in the paper, so the blending works out really well without me using the brush to blend a lot. Just lay the color on wet, and they can blend together very well. Some lighter, more diluted cerulean blue for the top of the sky. Bit more ultramarine streaks of clouds near the horizon. Okay, this tree here on the corner is so pretty, blooming with pink flowers. Not too sure what it's called, but they're really pretty. The whole blog had a number of this tree, and they bloom every year around this time of the season. Very big clusters of pink flowers. Now I'm just adding some light green as a first layer for those leaves. Again, it's a mix of reading green and yellow. Now I'm just mixing a really dark shade of green by mixing ultramarine blue and burnt sienna or brown into the reading green. So near the end of the day, the forest in the distance, it looked very solid and dark. Same as pretty much other parts of the greens. At the end of the day, they look solid, dark. So now I'm just painting the rooftops with dark brown. So we can make a regular brown darker by mixing in a bit of ultramarine blue. And these houses have a tone of yellow ochre. Here, pretty watery layer of yellow ochre here. Finally, I'm just adding some dark shades for the shadows around the blocks of spaces on the houses. Under the eaves, and just some final little polishes. I'm just gonna darken this tree a bit more because it's really dark outside and everything looks solid. And I think it's done. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my video, please click like and leave me a comment below. I will see you next time.